Ladies and gentlemen.
And we're back. This is Drew Sitwitz, and I'm joined by Randy Kim.
Hello, Drew. Thank you so much for bringing me here. This is actually my first time doing an in-person podcast interview in like a really, really long time. So it feels kind of like, wow, finally I get to be in this space.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun. You survived the brutal snowstorm last time. We had to reschedule, but that's really good.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's nothing more like. I used to live in Rogers Park, so I wasn't too far away from where you live, and you know, just trying to get yourself out of that parking spot and driving through these massive potholes, and streets that aren't even plowed yet. It's just, it's not for the faint of heart. Yeah,
right. You're like been there, done that, and I don't want to do it again.
I don't want to do that again.
So where are you at now?
I live in Westmont. So it was a place where I grew up. It's about roughly, if without rush hour, I can get to the city 30 plus minutes. It's more in the southwest suburbs, like by Downers Grove and Oak Brook.
Sure.
Westmont's like a working class community for a really long time. And that was where I was born and raised. And then, you know, I came back several years ago, like after living in Niles and then Rogers Park. And it was when my parents both have like needs. You know, both of my parents are elderly, but they're also disabled. So I wanted to make sure that they're all looked after. My mom is a very tough cookie, and so, you know, she still cooks, she still cleans, but, you know, sometimes supervision is needed. And yeah, I think it's been kind of a interesting journey going back to my old childhood place, you know, after all these years. And yeah, I actually don't feel like I have a huge attachment to that community because most of my community is still in Chicago. All of my ties are in the city. So yeah, I'm
sure that's weird going back. You're like sleeping in your childhood bedroom and and then also you see your parent, you know, as a kid, your parents they're taking care of you. They're the strong ones, and then now you see them a little bit older and you're taking care of them. That's tough.
Yes, exactly. It's a whole transition. Like now I'm going to be 43 in June, and so I'm at the age where I have witnessed expected and unexpected deaths. So it's a little morbid, but it's also like, this is the reality that I have to work through because my parents' generation is slowly dying off. And also there's been people, my colleagues that have, you know, passed away suddenly, you know, was unexpected. So, you know, you think about how can I be very intentional about my time and also who I spend it with and what it means to me to be in community and connection with folks. I think that's something that has been very important to me for the past year. So it's kind of my way of trying to navigate, you know, the rest of the half part of my life.
Yeah, no, that's very wise of you to be seeing it that way. Literally right before you got here, an old friend from middle school and childhood growing up lived right around the corner from me. He just messaged me and my current best friend that I've stayed friends with the whole time. Anyway, so this guy Max, he was like, "Hey, guy, thinking of you." He's like, "Oh, I watched this old movie that we saw when we were like little kids, and you know, I was thinking of you guys." And so, but he literally became a doctor. So it's like he total different kind of life path and like very successful and all that sort of stuff. So, just kind of thinking about my own personal friendships and you know, trying not to let those go either. So it's interesting.
How old are you now?
I'm 27.
Yeah, you know, so you're about the 10-year high school reunion. You know, it's kind of weird because we never had a high school reunion. Now, God, I can't even believe it's like 25 years since I graduated high school. Yeah, it's kind of like disorienting when I think about that. But it's like,
so what year was that?
2001.
That's so interesting.
I was 18 years old when 9/11 happened, and and it's like, okay, for us millennials, like there's a reason why we've been bitter and petty since then. You know, a lot of things have happened since then. But it's.
Would you equate that to your COVID moment? Because I was 21 or whatever when COVID happened, so it's sort of similar, like big change in society.
I feel like that was the first introduction of, oh wow, like I am just starting my adult life, and this happened, and this is the way to start my college career.
Shit is real.
And then the war in Iraq and Afghanistan grew, and I was like, wow, this is going on, and college protests were happening, and yeah, and then there are many things that have happened since then.
Oh yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think COVID, it was just like another, like, yeah, okay, once again, like my generation and then the Generation Z folks are like, again, dealing with more onslaught of chaos,
Okay, so we're jumping around a little bit. So so you grew up in Westmont, is that what it's
Yes,
called?
correct.
Okay. Westmont, gotcha. And so how was your childhood? Good family, all that stuff?
I would say my childhood was a very, very it was a very different experience for me. I think it was
Immigrant parents?
Yes, immigrant parents. Parents were refugees from Vietnam and Cambodia. My dad escaped from Cambodia after the genocide that was happening, and then my mom.
That's Pol Pot?
Yes, correct. And then my mom and her family escaped Vietnam after the war. So we're talking like after 75. And I was born in 83. So my parents met in America. And so I was the first one born. And yeah, like it was an interesting dynamic. I heard Vietnamese and Cambodian around me quite a bit growing up, but I didn't speak English. And when I was like 5 years old as a kindergartner, I was terrified. I was very tall for a 5-year-old.
You are a pretty tall guy.
Yeah, I am. And, I was terrified of anyone that didn't look like me. Like, and if anyone went near me, I would start crying. Like, I didn't know how to talk. I was like speechless. And yeah, the teachers were like kind of worried about me. Like, I think I saw one of my report cards from my kindergarten teacher. She said that Randy has said like 20 words all year. And I was like, oh, wow. And I'm like, now I do podcasting. Now I have talked to donors, and I'm like having large scale presentations and all that. And I'm like, wow, it's a long way. But yeah, my childhood was a very odd experience. Like I didn't really have many friends. I was very shy.
Did you have a Southeast Asian community?
No.
No church,
No, I didn't. I didn't belong to any institutions or community spaces at the time. What we would do as a family, we would go to the Asian Argyle, which is in the Chicago uptown neighborhood, and it's like about maybe like an hour away from where I live. And this was like a weekend thing that we would do to get groceries. My parents would run into their friends, and they'll talk for like an hour. And me and my brothers were very impatient, and that was like our access to that community in that sense.
Get certain ingredients you couldn't find, stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. And also a sense of community for them, but also like I didn't feel like I was really a part of it because I didn't, like, my brothers and I didn't speak the language and the languages, and so it was an odd experience.
Sorry. So Vietnam and Cambodia. So I know in Southeast Asia there's like two of the countries are sort of cousins, and the other two countries are sort of cousins, right? So is it Laos and Vietnam are more related linguistically and ethnically?
Vietnam is more closer. How do I say this? I'm not too familiar with the Lao and the Hmong experience per se, but I will say Cambodia is more similar to Thailand.
Okay.
That's kind of more of, I don't know, it's kind of really hard to navigate.
Because I know like the French were there, like colonialism, but then like Myanmar was like all British, so it's sort of like, they got like smushed in the middle.
Yes.
So
yeah, I
the
think
whole region is very fascinating to me. But
it is a very fascinating dynamic that I can't quite get a good hold on still, and
that's how I actually first found you. Was you had posted a video sort of talking about that or explaining, I can't even remember what it was, but I was just like, oh my god, this guy's so interesting. And your show is called the
Bahn Mi Chronicles, and
right.
So the reason why I named it the Bahn Mi Chronicles was like, about 10 years ago, I was going to this banh mi shop called Nulan in Chicago. I went to the one in Lawrence Avenue, like near, I think it's by Lincoln Square / Albany Park. And I was sitting down and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just call like my memoir, my writing, the Bahn Mi Chronicles. And the reason why that word stuck with me the way it did was banh mi was like, the origin of it is during the colonization of France, French bread was introduced to Vietnam, and then you got the ingredients. They're both French and like westernized, and then the Vietnamese ingredients. So you kind of have like the mix. And I kind of saw myself as this guy who was born and raised in America, but ingredients from Vietnam and Cambodia. So I kind of saw that as like a metaphor.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, and then also like another easier explanation would be like banh mi means bread in Vietnamese, and so I like the idea of breaking bread, and so I kind of use that as a concept. And so a few years later, I was like, okay, I didn't start the memoir, I didn't start writing, so I decided I was going to start a podcast, and I was going to call it the Bahn Mi Chronicles. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. This is going to be my launch, and yeah, that's how that journey began.
That's awesome. So how long have you been doing it?
So I was doing that for 4 years, from 2019 up until the end of 2023. I left, or I had just sunsetted it. It just ended it. And the end of 2023, I was kind of like mentally done. I was like, okay, 4 years is enough.
That's a lot, right?
That's like 40 years in dog years in podcasting. And so, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm already mentally, I think I've done everything I could. And then like fast forward to a couple months ago, actually a year ago, I was doing an event at the Vietnamese Association of Illinois, and I serve on the board for them. And there's this author who I connected with, and she's a best-selling author. Her name is Nguyen Phan Quay Mai, and she wrote...
Say that 5 times fast.
Oof, yes. Yes. But also my pronunciation of her name is a little different because it's like... Because the Vietnamese language is so tonal, like any little inflection changes the word, the meaning behind it. So it's like, yeah. So
interesting.
So yeah, I apologize if she's listening, and
yeah, sure.
Not because my Vietnamese tongue is still pretty pathetic. But like, yeah. So she was telling, I was doing this Q&A with her, and in front of an audience, and she was basically saying, Randy has a podcast, and by that time I had already been done. I'm like, I was a little embarrassed. I was like, yeah, Randy, please listen to this podcast. And I was like, he's like, we need you back. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I guess I'll come back. And I was kind of like taken aback by it. And then, I decided that I was going to step away from work because I was already dealing with grief from the loss of my brother. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And I needed to recalibrate. I really needed to be in a good space. And then, after I went to Oregon to help scatter my brother's ashes, then I started to feel like some of the grief was already lifted, and then I realized my creativity was coming back, which I felt like I had lost for quite a while since ending the podcast. And then I realized, like, you know what? I have a lot of things to talk about. I have a lot of things I want to explore. And next thing you know, my energy level just went up, and I was back to the podcast all of a sudden. So yeah, I didn't think I would be back after those 2 years, but a couple of months later, from last August to now, it's been quite a journey. It's been a very fulfilling journey. And yeah, I'm just kind of like, I'm not like as polished as I used to be, but I feel more confident about what I'm talking about, who I'm talking to. And I don't feel that imposter syndrome like I used to feel a couple of years ago, where I felt like when I would interview a guest that was more prolific, more, experienced and educated, I always felt like, okay, I don't want to look dumb in front of this person. Now it's more like, I could really hold my own. I can really have a conversation. And I feel like I don't need to be very scripted, or I don't feel like I need to be very restrained, of what I have to say. Just let loose, see what happens, and yeah.
Nice. So do you have structure? Because you've asked me at least a couple times now, like, what are we going to talk about? Or like, do you have any questions and stuff like that? So like, do you plan everything out, or how do you do it?
I do have some structure, like I usually get the bio of a guest ahead of time. And luckily, some of the folks that I usually bring on are people that I'm already familiar with, or at least have enough curiosity about. It's like, okay, there's a reason why I have a curiosity, whether you're doing social justice work, whether you're doing entertainment, things that really speak to the things that I am very curious about and what I feel the audience needs to be aware about. And I was, I was having like what I usually do for my prep time is like I would have a couple of questions and also kind of like, okay, these are topics that I do need to bring up, like, like, okay, this is like kind of getting an idea of like how I knew this person, making sure I make note of that, and if there's like some very difficult topics, I usually have to put in, okay, this is gonna be a trigger warning. This is what we're gonna talk about. If this is gonna be tough for you, just take your time with it or just skip it altogether.
Right.
So I usually try to have that in mind, but also as like markers, I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that I ask my guests like, where can they find you, or making sure that I have like the pronunciation of their names right.
Yep,
so,
same.
Yeah, so
I butcher everybody's name.
Yeah, I know, and so I think that like it helps to have a level of structure, but I'm also I'm a chaos demon, so I don't tend to have a good.
What does your sweatshirt say?
It says "fuck colonialism."
Gotcha. Okay.
I know. I'm a little provocative, and I'm also wearing the allegedly cap, which is like from one of my favorite podcasts, Beyond the Blinds. And every time if I am going to do, well, I did an episode where me and a friend and advocate was calling out a Cambodian a creator and for alleged predatory behavior. So I would prop up my friends like, okay, we have to use the word alleged because legality. And actually that show, Beyond the Blinds, have always started with saying we have to say allegedly, because we're talking about celebrities and avoid, the blowback from their lawyers.
Yeah.
We got to use that word allegedly. We have to preface it. And so I'm like, okay, this is something that I have to be very smart about. So this is a good way of keeping me accountable.
I like that. No, I love it. I don't say allegedly enough. I'm just out here slinging from the hip.
Yeah.
That's funny. Fuck colonialism. Yeah. Has colonialism ever been a good thing?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. Like, I think that we have the sense of, like, growing up, it seemed like it was a good thing. Like, it introduced a lot of different ideas. Now, the thing is that what doesn't get covered is, like, the violence, the oppression, and the erasure of the cultural history and what has been erased. So I think about that with the indigenous folks, and I think about that with Black communities and and in the homeland where I was just having a conversation with a friend who is a Black woman and telling me that it's hard for her to figure out what her original language, her ancestral language was, because a lot of the ancestral roots have been have disappeared because of the slavery. So I think that colonialism in a way does have a lot of has a very dark history behind it, and it really is something that we don't talk enough about. And I mean, and it's and we see the consequences. It also comes back to like where we are at now, with the chaos that we're dealing with, and so it really kind of goes back to our history and what we haven't been talked about, and what hasn't been talked about is, unfortunately, it creates permission for people who are trying to hide the history to do their dirty work. I mean, you look at the Epstein files and
dude, that I'm going crazy.
Yeah,
with all this Epstein stuff.
It is because I think someone had said on Threads, if we don't get outraged enough about the Epstein files, the people in power are testing it to see how we're going to react, and if we're not reacting hard enough, they'll find other ways to make it worse.
Oh, it'll blow over.
Exactly. And
it was a year in the news cycle, but we got through it,
Exactly. And I think that's what's very scary. I mean, that's how colonialism, if you don't learn the history of what has happened, then it gives permission for the powers that be, the billionaires, to like really be like, okay, now we can really assert ourselves and we can start controlling the tech. And the AI and all that fun stuff that just...
I'm hoping that tech is actually our... it'll break the chains, hypothetically, right?
I
Because
hope
now
so.
there's more cameras. There's more,
Yes.
like, think about it. Epstein filmed everything, right? Thinking he was blackmailing people.
Yeah.
When in actuality, that's kind of what did him in the end, right? Well, he's dead allegedly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's like all that footage, all that proof of all the crimes he was committing, so that kind of does at least give the people that are like, see, I told you the whole time that there was some crazy shit going on.
Yeah, and P. Diddy, I mean, like, that video that 50 Cent grabbed, I was like, Incredible. Sometimes you gotta like be amazed by the brazenness of the perpetrators. Like President Nixon basically was taping himself and recording himself. Like,
actually, Nixon. I don't know how much you know about it. You always think, oh, Nixon, he's a crook, all that stuff, right? In actuality, Nixon was the most popular president
at the time
when he was elected.
Oh yeah,
and then Watergate was a complete setup by the CIA.
Interesting.
People didn't want Nixon to be the president, and so what they did was they made it look like his team was recording the I guess the Democrats at the time, whatever, secretly, right? Which would be a crime. Nixon had no idea any of that was going on. It was all set up, and so then they go, "Hey, we're about to get caught. What should we do?" And Nixon said, "Fuck it, cover it up." Even though it wasn't even a real scandal to cover up, the fact that he said cover it up was what did him in. So it was all just to get him out. And then they put in, who is it? Gerald Ford, I think,
yes.
who was a fucking puppet, and he was on the whatever administration. Anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Nixon. I saw one video of Joe Rogan talking about that, so who fucking knows?
Yeah.
But it just makes you think like, damn, they really have been doing this shit forever.
Yeah, but it's also kind of ironic because President Nixon, like before he was elected, President Johnson was trying to end the Vietnam War, but then he kind of made a deal to keep the war going. So that kind of like screwed up. So it almost felt like, it's just like a cycle of like
they're all bad.
Corruption.
They're all
evil. The FBI.
I think it's LBJ had like a huge dick, and he nicknamed it like Dinky or something, and he'd like pull it out at parties and stuff, and like everybody knew.
And apparently he had a way of like towering over people to like really intimidate them. And he would do that. I think that's what I would hear about LBJ, and like he has a way of like really like asserting himself, his power, whether it's his body part that we or just his height itself, like the way
all of the presidents are like over 6 feet.
Yeah,
even going back to like the 1700s.
I would say Martin Van Buren was like, this is like my nerdiness, but like Martin Van Buren was like a tiny little dude. I don't know who else was like really that short.
Interesting.
Yeah, everyone else was pretty tall for the most part.
Well, Roosevelt, I guess, was in the chair. I don't know how.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, FDR. Yeah.
So, do you like his history? I assume.
I did. Like, I think the more I learn about history, the more angry I get, and it's like, I need to just step away for a moment.
Yeah, it's fun. You have to try to look at it without being too political, I'll say. Whereas once you start getting into the more modern times, you're kind of like, it makes you frustrated. You're like, no, this shit is still affecting us. This isn't just the Roman times that we're looking at. Like, like the Vietnam War was pretty fucking close.
Yeah, people are still alive, from that era. And and it's like, wow, and you could really feel the effects from it, and also what has been repeated since then. And so it's like, have we learned anything? So it's been kind of a wild west of things. And it's like, what a timeline that we live in. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize we are in 2026 and dealing with all the nonstop chaos that
it's true.
It's like,
Have you been to Cambodia or Vietnam?
Yeah, I did. I was there a year ago. For Vietnam, this was actually my second visit. The first time I visited was in 2009, and I was with my uncle, and my uncle had remarried after my aunt had passed away, like maybe 2 years prior, and and that was a very difficult experience because I felt like I had to be everywhere with them. I was very new to international traveling at the time, so I was very green to that, and I was like, okay, I didn't know what I was doing, and I really couldn't speak, and it was very, very challenging for me. And then I didn't go back until like last year, and I decided that I wanted to visit other spots and go by myself and to like dictate what I want to experience. Like, I'm a very different person as a 25-plus-year-old to now a 40-plus-year-old. So there's a huge gap.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to visit Hanoi. I wanted to visit central Vietnam, like Hoi An and Hue. I mean, I wanted to visit these cool spots, and I wanted to kind of like get an idea of my own interactions with the culture. In Cambodia was my first time visiting, and and that was a very how should I put it? When I tell people about what I learned from Vietnam and Cambodia, Vietnam in a way reminded me of how brazen and how bold I can be. Cambodia reminded me of how vulnerable I really am and how sensitive I am. And I think the reason why I say that is Vietnam, like all of a sudden I was crossing through those streets, like you have to remember it's an art to like cross the street.
Sure.
If you've been in Southeast
million
Asia,
scooters.
yeah, you kind of have to like let them pass you. It's kind of like I got used to it pretty quickly. I was like, okay, I can do this. And I was recording myself. I was very, very cocky. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was actually riding a bike at one point in traffic at night.
Insane.
And it was like a rainstorm too, which I didn't expect. I was like, great. And I couldn't see where I was going. My phone was like getting all wet because my GPS was like, I'm directionally challenged, so I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. So yeah, but I was taking more risk in a sense. Like I was, feeling adventurous. I'm in Cambodia, with the genocide and and in the fact that I have no family to go to, it was very heavy for me, and I kind of saw like this whole, like I didn't do any of the genocide sites. I refused to do any of it. I wanted to do things that were more like fulfilling and more like getting in touch with the current day of Cambodia. I wanted to experience what it's like, and I felt like this sensitivity, this emotion, come through me because like, wow, like, this is a place that really holds a lot of value for me too. Like there's certain things about myself that I never knew, especially when I don't have my family to visit over there. So I felt like when I visited Cambodia, I felt like my ancestors were channeling through everywhere I went, from the tour guides to the restaurant servers to the hotel workers. I felt like I was hearing stories from them personally. And
that's awesome.
And that I think was it was a very powerful experience. Yeah.
Did you go to any of the what do they call it? The big temples?
Yes, I did. I went to Angkor Wat.
Angkor Wat, yeah.
Yeah, Angkor Wat is in Siem Reap. Angkor Wat was one of the most... it's a very enchanting place. I mean, this is like a mecca for a lot of Cambodians, but it's also like if you had seen Tomb Raider, if you had seen, you would hear about Angkor Wat all the time. But like I had a friend,
and it's on the flag, correct? Or
yes,
a temple like that is on the flag.
Yeah, I have a friend, fiance who lives in Cambodia that was taking me there. Like I woke up at like 3 a.m. so we can like go and see the sunrise, and it was pitch black.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was pitch black. It was like I couldn't see where I was going. I mean, I was just following the crowd. I was just following the noise of the crowd, and we were walking for like about like maybe half a mile, and then like and then we stopped, and then we're like, okay, I can't see a thing, and then like as each minute goes by, I could start seeing the little lake, start to form, and then in the background you can kind of see the outline of the temple behind. With the sun behind it, like starting to rise. And yeah, it was a good 2+ hours just waiting. And it was a very nice experience. It was, luckily it was not too hot. It was pretty cool, and there was a bit of a breeze. And yeah, it was kind of like really cool to just navigate around the architecture and, just to see the sacredness of it. It's like, wow, this is like thousands of years of history. This is like the home of Hinduism and Buddhism, and it's just a very enchanting experience. So yeah, it was very unforgettable. It was exhausting. It was a whole day of like visiting temples, and I'm just like, yeah.
I've heard you can get burnt out on the temple tours. It's
yes.
Like, pick a couple and then just like, okay, I got my
food, yeah, exactly. I mean, even like the pants that I got from Cambodia, like, it was like, I can't describe it. It's kind of like, it's can't even describe it, but it ripped. Like I knew like it was not good enough for like temple walks. I was like, okay,
gotcha.
Well, okay, well, so much for that. But yeah, it was. It was.
And you can pretty much like go all over these temples, right? Like, from what I've heard, it's like free will. You know, you just kind of walk
you do have to
around.
pay. Like, you do have to pay like ahead of time too. You know, and then actually the funny thing is that if you are a Cambodian diasporic person, you know, if you could speak Cambodian, you can get in for free.
I'm sure.
Unfortunately, that was not the case. I knew that was not going to happen. People have said to me, "Well, you could try to speak Cambodian." I'm like, no, I really can't. Like, I really can't, and I don't have time for it. I'll pay the freaking fee. I don't know what it was, but it was fine. It's fine. It's not going to break the bank here, you know.
Yeah, it's like $2 US.
Yeah, probably. You know, I was like, look, I mean, this is nothing, and I'm like, look, yes, I know that my pride is already wounded. I don't need to be reminded by the guard that. You know, I don't want to be shamed enough as it is. So I'm just like, let me pay for the damn ticket and
Also, they need the money. So
I mean, you know, it's good. It's good. It's fine. You know,
as long as you're not totally getting ripped off, obviously.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Man, that's so cool. I would love to do that. That's like definitely on my bucket list. I mean, is it a great wonder of the world or something? I feel like it should be.
It was like one of the 8th wonders of the world. Yeah, okay. I don't know if it still is, but it is. It has been for a long time.
And it was like hidden, right? Like,
yes, it was hidden for quite a while. Yeah, I don't know when it just reemerged, but yeah, it has been. It was a hidden city for a really long time. Apparently, yeah.
I had heard that it was like a Christian colonialist like found it in the jungle and then was like, oh my God, this is like blasphemy. Wow. This is some ancient demonic shit.
Wow.
And didn't say anything. And then like 50 years later, you know, a farmer or whatever was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And then it like, you know, then they started clearing it out and like really discovered it. But it's crazy. Similar to Machu Picchu. That's another one where it was like some sheep herder was like, fuck. Oh, really?
My brother went there like with his wife like 2 years ago. And I was like, he said, he's a marathon runner, but he said the elevation was so rough for him. I don't know if I can handle it. I mean, I saw the pictures. It's just phenomenal. I did go to Colombia like in early January, and I mean, I went through.
Just slipped in before the war popped.
Well, actually, the thing with Venezuela. Okay, so funny story. So I was in Bogota at the time. Actually, no, I was not in Bogota. I was in Medellin, which is a wonderful city, but it was also known for the Pablo Escobar cartel, the Medellin cartel. And one morning I woke up and I got a message from like the news and saying that Trump had arrested the Venezuelan president. He's bringing him to the U.S. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, Colombia's like next to Venezuela, you know? And I'm just like, okay, am I going to be able to come back home? That wasn't my first thought. Because apparently what was happening is that people that were in the Caribbean, they couldn't fly back.
I had a friend that had to stay there for 2 weeks.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Not that it's a horrible thing to be in.
Well, that's what we kept telling him. It's like, all right, get over it, you know.
It's not a problem. It's like, look, do I want to be back in Chicago weather? No, not really.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this is going to be very interesting. Luckily, that didn't happen, but I was like, this is like another timeline that I don't want to be a part of, and here we are.
So, but you were able to get out fine, right?
Yes, I was. But Colombia was just a wonderful experience. I have never been to South America.
Did you feel afraid?
No,
crime-wise?
No, I didn't. You know, like interestingly enough, like 30 plus years ago, when I was a kid, I had learned about Colombia being the most dangerous country in the world, and it was. For
you think of machine guns and cocaine.
You think of like Pablo Escobar's reign, and if you have like watched like the narco era, I think on Netflix, I believe. But like if you learn about the history of Escobar, it is mind blowing. I got into a rabbit hole about all the things that he did during his reign of terror, and the way he had like blackmailed the government into doing what he wants to do, because you know he had the power and he had eliminated a lot of people in power. He got rid of judges, he got assassinated journalists, he assassinated a lot of folks, and he bombed the hell out of Medellin like every day.
That's crazy.
So it was kind of wild.
He had like a military, like he was legit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was not, and like I think like they were trying to extradite him to the U.S. and he had already made threats that he kept continuing to bomb them and said, I will not bomb Medellin unless you, I mean, I will not, as long as, like, if I'm not extradited to the US, I'm going to build my own prison. I want my own prison being made. And he had a prison that's made that was like a 4 seasons, basically.
Right.
And that was how he was able to, like, use his power to kind of be like, I'm not going to bomb your city unless you make a jail for me under my terms. And, so
crazy because people loved him, but then it's also like, when he doesn't care about his people. I mean, I don't know.
He is a very divisive figure. I think that for some people, he is seen as the Robin Hood because he built schools, houses for the poor, but he also did that as a way to get into office so he can get immunity.
Exactly.
So it's not exactly altruistic.
Also, how much damage did he do with making the cartels, making drugs more common, all that. So it's like really sort of like destroying the society.
He blew up a commercial plane too with passengers on it. Yeah, so this is why I got into a rabbit hole. I was like, I could not stop. My mouth just drops open every time I have to learn about that history. But yeah,
and that was what, the 70s?
That was 80s and early 90s.
That's not even that, like, that's not long ago at all.
And so to get back, the part of Colombia was a place that I was like, okay, I don't think this is the place that's a no-no for me. And that was kind of a narrative I ran with for a long time.
Okay.
And then, I was planning my trip. I was trying to figure out where to go during, about last year around this time. And I had a good friend that was living in Colombia with her husband, and she said, I'm having a great time. She was selling me on it. She was telling me a lot about the culture, how far it's gone, and and I was like, and I've heard other things about it from other folks. I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to give this a try.
Yeah.
It's not that expensive. I also like places that are a little more unique.
Oh, for sure.
That is kind of like, that people aren't immediately saying, oh yeah, I want to go there immediately. But like, I kind of wanted to do something that's kind of like, that's still unique, relatively affordable.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. Also, South America, same time zone or mostly same time zone, so you're not getting crazy jet lag.
I know.
Where you're wasting 2 days of just being like sick.
Yeah, because I had horrible jet lag coming back from the Vietnam Cambodia trip. I mean, I was literally circling the globe, which didn't really wanted to do that way, but it was rough on the jet lag. This was perfect. I mean, it was only a couple of hours to travel. I stopped in Atlanta,
and you're in a different world.
Yes, it's a different world. It's a different temperature too, which was really nice for a change. So
that is cool. Oh man, I had something. So back to Pol Pot. I believe he survived. Like, he died in peace. Like, he didn't go to prison. Wasn't executed. Like,
right. And that was in 1997. So we were talking about like 18 years after the end of the Khmer Rouge rule over Cambodia. He was kind of like in hiding, and and there were certain like rural parts of Cambodia that was still Khmer Rouge strongholds. So there was still like little wars going on there. And I think he was interviewed by a reporter, a Western reporter, and he was very frail by that point. He was very stoic. He was very he didn't look menacing. He didn't have that dictator look. I mean, he was like an old grandpa by that point, and it was very surreal to see. This is a guy who orchestrated the mass murders of like nearly the entire population, and and it still holds true. I mean, I think that there were people that were tried, and they were much older by that point. They were like closer to death, and so I think that this is a country that's still trying to heal after like the last 50 years. And it's still, you could still feel the presence of the ghost of that past, because, you had like so many people that were killed.
All the grandparents are dead. All the parents are pretty much, right? It's a young country. Yeah.
It's a young country because a lot of that generation, and also a lot of like the academics, the artists, the doctors, and bankers. I mean, they were all murdered. So it's like they
left. If you could get the fuck out, leave. Yeah.
So I mean, they literally had to start from zero, like literally. And so yeah, I think that I do see promise with Cambodia, but it's also like, I mean, it carries a lot of wounds, and I think that's going to still be felt for generations in a way. Yeah.
And Thailand clearly leaned into tourism and English and all of that stuff, where Cambodia, you know, obviously the Angkor Wat and all that stuff, like you could do it, but it's like the infrastructure isn't there yet, right? It's not a tourist destination yet, where Vietnam or Thailand maybe are.
Yeah, I think Cambodia actually is now. Well, Siem Reap definitely is now. I mean, that is definitely a big tourist hub because, you know, it's Angkor Wat. It's like, I think like since the turn of this century, it has really, you know, been more visible, you know. But Phnom Penh, I think it's starting to catch up a little bit. I mean, they have a new international airport they just had like less than a year ago, and you know, there's more businesses coming in. So there's development, but it's not quite on the same level as, say, you know, Vietnam or Thailand. But yeah, I think Cambodia is definitely, you know, trying to rise from the ashes, and I know Laos is still like obviously still behind, but you know, but that's what happens when, you know, you deal with war and what it does to like the next generation. So it really creates a lot of different dynamics, so to speak.
Who was Pol Pot killing? Was it a ethnic genocide? Was it just a communist versus capitalist thing?
So I will, you know, I'm going to be very careful how I, you know, tell the history, but this is from what I do understand, is that when Pol Pot came into power with the Khmer Rouge in 1975, they were fighting against the U.S.-backed regime. You know, during that time, Nixon was doing the secret bombings, Operation Breakfast, to bomb eastern Cambodia, like along the border of Vietnam, because he felt like this is where the Viet Cong were at. They were located in those areas, and so they were bombing the heck out of that particular area secretly, and a lot of people were killed, and that started to like form like the Khmer Rouge as a response to that. I mean, you have folks that live in countryside, and you know, and the power was getting built to like, you know, to like go against the U.S. backed regime, because what the U.S. did was they had deposed the king into exile. That was where things really changed, and they put in a puppet government, and that was not very popular. So
we brought you guys democracy.
Yeah, exactly, and so it created like a civil war that would go on for a couple of years, and then Pol Pot wanted to depose of anyone that was supporting the U.S. backed regime. He wanted to go, like, he and his fellow leaders wanted to create an ultra-Maoist cultural revolution, which was to turn back to year zero, get rid of the capitalism, get rid of the Western influences. He was also targeting other minority groups like the Vietnamese that were living there, the Chinese and the Chams and Muslims, and he wanted it to be a pure Cambodian country that's relying specifically on agriculture and doing away with, you know, a lot of the Western influences. So that created a culture of paranoia, and where people were getting murdered for even wearing glasses because they were seen as being educated, you know. So that was the extremity that they that government caused in a short amount of time. I mean, it was like a 3.5-year run of terror, and you know, luckily it didn't, you know, continue any further than that level. But it was a very dark period. Yeah.
Wow. That's so fascinating. And there, I was gonna say, with Mao, they had like the little red book, I think is what it was. It was like the little Communist Manifesto, and there was one day where they had all of the students kill all of the teachers in China. It was like this massive overthrow. It was like, I forget what they call it, but like the Day of the Reckoning or some shit. And then you're just like, I mean, obviously China's doing great now, but like at that time, like I just don't see how anybody thinks that's a good idea to kill all of the people in charge. I understand like if there's corruption and things like that, and, you know, if you want to start the system over, but it's like, okay, but if you completely dismantle the system, like how do you know how to turn the lights on if everybody who knows how to turn the lights on is dead? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, one of the stories that I would hear is that, kids during that particular time were told to tattletale on their parents.
Right.
Because like the Khmer revolutionary leaders are your parents. They're your family now, not your parents.
Right.
So that was the code switch that they were forced to make. And so, yeah, I mean, people were told to spy, on their family members. Yeah.
It's terrible. And once you start running out of food, it's just that pressure gets pushed on you even more to snitch or to lie. Or to,
yes, it does.
To tell on your parents.
It does, because it becomes it becomes a dog eat dog world. Like the country was not only getting murdered, not only were country folks getting murdered, but but they were also starving to death too, and they were working in the fields for hours upon hours and getting very little rations. So, yeah, I mean, so the competition for food was also very fierce.
That's terrible. And so Khmer, that is what the people of Cambodia are, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct.
Khmer?
Yes,
like
correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's so interesting, that whole area. Is it mountainous?
I will say, I haven't experienced all of Cambodia. I kind of wish I did. I think there's more flat, but there are some hills. It's not like mountainous as like the Andes Mountains, like in South America.
Sure.
There are some hills here and there, but like in the cityscape, there really isn't.
Gotcha.
From my understanding, yeah.
I watched a travel vlog in Bhutan, which is the Himalaya mountains, and it's it's like the only eco or what do they call it? It's like net zero emissions or something like that. Like they actually have cleaner air. They make the air cleaner or whatever. Anyways, so this tiny little country up in the mountains, and it's beautiful. And you're literally everywhere you look, it's just like Himalayan mountains. It's fucking fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of places I want to visit. I mean, I don't know where to pinpoint. I would love to go back to Vietnam again and visit other parts that I haven't got a chance to visit. So, I mean, I'm hoping, depending how this year goes, I would like this to be a routine where every New Year's I'm in a different country, warmer country specifically. Warm country specifically. I would like that to be a reality for a little while. I'd like for that to happen, but we'll see.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Changing gears a little bit. Are you in a relationship? Are you dating anybody?
Nope, I am not. The thing is, it's the first time anyone's asked me that in a long time. But I have not put a lot of stock into dating. I mean, as a gay man, I think someone had said right now I'm just gonna focus on platonic love, just have my fun with friends, with other gay friends that on a consenting level. So sure. I think I get my fill. I get my fill every now and then. But do I want more? Yes, sure, selfishly. But also I don't.
That's not selfish.
No, I think it's a need. It's also it's exploring pleasure and I always kind of find it hard to date in a way because there's so much to navigate. Right now I have to take care of both of my parents. That makes it harder.
Oh, I'm sure.
I have my own goals. I have my own ambitions right now. And I also feel I don't want to say I purposely intimidate people, but I kind of need someone who could really handle my energy. And I know I could be very straightforward and kind of right to the punches. And so I don't like to be dating people who are scared of me or intimidated by what I have to do. I'm a curious person. So if you're a curious person, great. If you're adventurous, great. If you're a homebody that just wants to stay at home and just not do anything else fun, yeah, that's gonna be hard. But I think my definition of relationship is definitely evolving. I don't think I see myself as a person who wants to stay in a monogamous relationship. I like to keep things fairly open because I think, we all have different needs. And
also gay hookup culture, I assume, is just so available.
Yeah,
right?
It's available. Yes. I mean, can it be very tiresome? Can it be toxic? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, I think trying to understand what your needs are is very important. And does it change? Yeah, sure, it does. I just, I don't I think that everyone has a different way of approaching a relationship, and I think that has to come from both parties to like what you will agree to, and let's check back in, see if this is working, like what the dynamic looks like. Yeah.
But I also understand if you are in an open relationship, it is sort of like, well, what is keeping you two together? If you're not living together, I mean, I guess I understand you are still dating, but the lines get blurred. It's like if you're seeing three people at once, but you're dating this person's your boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like, why does he have the label where the other people don't? Or whatever, you know what I mean?
It's kind of like, like the idea of polyamory is like something that I don't know if I could do, because I see that as a lot of work for me mentally. It's like,
it seems insane.
It works for some folks, but it also doesn't work for others. And it's also like, it's a whole different dynamic that I don't know if I could really handle. Like I look at it as like, if I have a partner, like, there's a person on the side every now and then, like
Sure.
if I want to explore.
You have the option if you talk to somebody at the bar or whatever, you could still do it. It's not you're cheating. It's just, you had a fun night.
Yes, exactly. Like,
They're happy for you.
I'm not like in a serious emotionally entanglement with this other person. Like, like I have a friendship with this person, like, yeah, just have kick back and have a little fun.
Also, dudes totally understand. It's like, just
I know, exactly. And also, like, we live in a culture where people get divorced all the time, and people cheat on one another. And it's like, if I know I'm going to be very upfront about it before I even go there. It's like, why should I keep things a secret? I think that's kind of what I'm learning. Yeah, but also I think I've been traumatized by as a child, because both of my parents would fight all the time. And so I think that has kind of like, gotten me more, I don't want to say risk avoidant, but it's gotten me more careful about not wanting to have that same kind of experience that they did, because it was traumatizing to me and my brothers seeing that happen. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it is tough. You're just like, you to have kids, it's like you want to fix all the mistakes that your parents made, but inevitably you're going to make the same mistakes that your parents made.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Would you want kids?
No, not at all.
Because you said you're 43.
I'm going to be 43 in June.
So that window is sort of closing.
Yeah, I mean, although as a guy, I mean, I have seen like Mick Jagger gets to be a dad at
Al Pacino
80
had a
years
kid.
old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't explain. I can't speak for them on that. But it's like, I make my peace with it that I don't see myself having kids. And if I have a partner that really is that invested, could I be talked into it? Possibly. I can't say never, but I feel like to raise a kid in this environment is already a challenge, and I don't know if I am ready to step into their world, what they deal with at school and what they deal with the internet, and I don't know if I can handle that. Also, I don't think I can. I don't think I have the energy, because I spend a lot of time talking to people, but then I have my introvertedness where I need to be in seclusion for a couple of days, or I need to be in a dark, quiet place for like several hours. And having kids is not going to allow me that. So
yeah, you have to be selfless. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have that kind of mentality, because I kind of want to be in my own world. I kind of want to be left alone. I want to travel, and I want to do other things. Solo sometimes.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I have a friend who he wants to have kids with his when they get married with his husband, and but he wants to do like the IVF, and he wants to have it with the same woman, and then each spouse would have a child with that woman. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, that just seems so complicated.
Yeah, there's several friends that I know that are, like closer to my age that have been doing IVF too. So it is more common to see like older folks like around my age group to start doing the IVF procedure. And I think it is. I don't know the whole process, but it sounds very complicated. It sounds very arduous, and there's a whole.
And expensive.
Yeah, and very expensive too. So I mean, thank U.S. healthcare.
Lack of. I told that to somebody. They're like, Just fucking adopt. Why?
Well, that creates a whole nother problem. I mean, that's a whole nother problem. So yeah, I don't want to get into that rabbit hole, but that's a whole nother problem to deal with.
I know. It would be tough to adopt a child. I feel like it's just like you're going into it just being difficult. But
yes.
Either way. Okay, so we're at 54 minutes. This thing flew by, man. This is great. This is great talking with you. You're very interesting.
Oh, thank you.
So I guess to end, maybe shout out your podcast or your social medias, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so you could find me on Instagram at banmi, BANHMI _Chronicles. And you can also follow the Banh Mi Chronicles podcast on any platform. I also have it on YouTube, so there's a video format to that. I also have a Substack called Banh Mi Bites, which also houses my podcast, but I also add some writing into it. So yeah, feel free to hit me up, and I'm always happy to have entertaining and very serious, thought-provoking conversations with.
This was kind of serious.
Yeah, I have my seriousness, but I also can be funny too. I mean, I feel like I've been really busy doing like this podcast tour as of late with other folks, and I have had like very different conversations. I've had moments where I'm just going chaotic, messy, to emotionally vulnerable, to being very serious and introspective. So I feel like I'm kind of like hitting on all kinds of emotions, which is something, but I've enjoyed it so far.
That's great. Who was the show that you were just on? I saw the post. He did a really cool like promo video. Yes. He's out in his garden like eating banh mi.
Yeah, his name's Rainier, and he runs. He is known as the Love Life of an Asian Guy, so Lag, and so he runs Lag Media, and so I have been following him for like several years. I mean, he does a lot of a lot of social justice oriented work in the Asian American community. He's Filipino American, and we have like this mutual respect for one another. We haven't ever had a full conversation, but it's always like we kind of like see each other's work, and so he invited me on, and we had a really good conversation, and we were talking about my podcast name, and he wanted to do a cool promo video about cilantro on a banh mi, which people call it soap sandwich if you put cilantro in there. I'm neutral, but yeah,
the cilantro thing. People say soap. I eat it and I don't taste soap, but I don't particularly like the flavor of cilantro, so I feel like that means that I do have that. But I don't know. I just always say that. But so he was saying that there's like 3 different kinds of cilantro.
Yeah, I don't even know
versions and all that sort of stuff.
I didn't even know that, to be honest with you, because I'm not an expert on plants. But I got a go education on that, so I was very thankful for it. But like cilantro, I'm kind of like, if it's there, fine. But if it's not, then I don't care. It's not gonna like ruin my life, either way. So
yeah, it's like where garlic, like if you add garlic to food, I'm like, oh, I love it. Where if it's missing, it's kind of like I need something. Where the cilantro, it's I'll take it or leave it.
I need my sriracha and certain things too, a lot. Yeah,
exactly. Well, Randy, this was awesome. Thank you so much for doing the show. I'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Or do your show or whatever. But thank you so much.
Absolutely, Drew.
We are out.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.